More baby boomers across the U.S. are turning to marijuana instead of prescription pills.
Tonight, Liz Reyes shows us why some locals say the green option improved their quality of life.
The 1960s and 70s saw a surge in the popularity of marijuana among young Americans. Fast forward decades later, that young hippie generation is now over 60 and is turning back to weed. Now, many say it's not about getting high. It's about getting relief for chronic pain.
My problem is a soft tissue problem. It's not a bone problem. And if I use marijuana every day, I can function. If I don't, I can barely walk.
67-year-old New Orleanian Dee Dee Chatelet knows her use of cannabis is against the law until the state officially opens its medical marijuana pharmacies. But she says she's allergic to prescribed opioid painkillers, so pot is her only pain-fighting option.
I have chronic pain in every joint in my body.
Her story helps explain why marijuana use is on the rise among the baby boomer generation, people born between 1946 and 1964. Turns out pot use has doubled among American adults, ages 50 to 64, in the past 10 years, according to a new federal study in the journal Drug and Alcohol Dependence. As for seniors, ages 65 and older, their use increased more than 7 times in that same period. Researchers attribute the spike to the changing attitudes and new laws on cannabis. Plus, more doctors are prescribing medical marijuana to manage pain.
Getting teared up just thinking about it. The rheumatoid arthritis alone can some days keep me in bed. I just can't get out of bed.
As we were talking to 56-year-old Robin Chambliss about the increased use of therapeutic marijuana among her age group, this started to happen.
I'm shaking because not because I'm with you, but because I'm in so much pain and I hadn't smoked today.
The New Orleans stage production manager says most of her life she's lived with pain in her joints and her hip. Not even opioid pills helped. Instead, she got addicted to them and struggled daily. So 11 years ago, she switched from pills to pot, and she says now her life is livable.
I can go outside of my house now. I can get out and do things. I had to stop my career because of pain.
When you're on opioids, this is something that people need to understand, is that you become a Frankenstein monster that you thought you would never become.
This former NOPD officer shared his story on switching to marijuana after he became addicted to opioids. Jerry Kazmarek says the painkillers were for injuries he suffered on the job, but they ruined his life.
I would go into rages. I mean, it was awful.
The 50-year-old, nearly baby boomer, says it was so awful he decided to ditch opioids for medicinal cannabis while living in Colorado.
I am into a regimen of exercise every day, and it makes me feel good.
These people are suffering, and I've seen what works, I've seen what doesn't work.
Kevin Caldwell is a Louisiana advocate for medical marijuana. He estimates several thousand local seniors use cannabis for its therapeutic value.
Cannabis research.
Advocates point to studies that show opioid use decreased in states with legalized marijuana.
This is not a drug, it's a psychoactive substance, it's a plant. It's been here since the beginning of time, and it has been used therapeutically and recreationally in our state for well over 100 years.
Soon, medical marijuana will be available in Louisiana. 9 pharmacies received approval to sell it across the state.
But patients can forget about smoking it. The state won't allow it to be sold in that form. Instead, initially, it's going to look like this. These are tinctures. They're 3-ounce bottles. They contain an alcoholic solution that's an extract from the plant, and patients will use drops of it under their tongue.
Marijuana has actually been shown to be one of the least addictive substances.
Dr. Alexis Karimi is one of at least 40 Louisiana physicians with the required permit to treat patients. To qualify for the program, patients must provide proof that conventional medical treatments didn't work and undergo an examination. The doctor decides on the strength and potency best suited for the patient, and that includes reducing the levels in the cannabis that produces a marijuana high side effect.
You can get different strains and different strengths that can potentially help with various conditions, whether it be for pain, for sleep, for anxiety.
There's a warning, though. That same study that shows an increase of pot use among baby boomers also found those users are more likely to drink alcohol, smoke cigarettes, and abuse drugs.
The risk is there.
Psychiatrist Dr. Megan Davis says there is an addiction risk with everything. But she says people need to be mindful because any extra substance they start consuming can impact medications they take.
The changes will affect the way the medications are processed, and so you may become what they call toxic on a medication that has worked fine in the past.
I think that's an individual thing.
But locals like Kazmarek say addiction issues will depend on a personality type.
Give these people a choice to save their own life.
Liz Reyes, Fox 8, Local First.
The state pharmacies could start selling medical marijuana later this year, but there won't be any insurance coverage for it because it's against federal law, so the prices will be set by the pharmacies.